Hello, everyone. My name's Shay Elise Allen, and welcome to the Midlife Pleasure and Power conversation series. I'm really delighted today to welcome to the series Denise BOOMKENS, who is a photographer and founder of the movement And Bloom. So And Bloom's an incredibly inspiring movement dedicated to women 40 plus. In celebration of aging unapologetically. It's an absolutely phenomenal business, and yeah, really excited to have you here, Denise. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here too. It's
Thank
really
you.
nice to talk to someone on the other side of the world.
Yeah, well, that's right. I forgot
to Amsterdam.
Yes, I forgot to mention you're all the way over in Amsterdam. So yeah, thank you so much. So I'd just like you to share a little bit with us, Denise, about your inspiration for starting And Bloom. Like I've read a little bit about your story, but I'd love for you to share with our audience your journey, your aging journey, and what was it that really inspired you to move into this field and to create the And Bloom movement?
Well, it's actually been a very long journey. If I think about it, being a model when I was young and starting photography when I was 29, it already started there that I was so aware of my age. Models, nowadays it's a little bit different, but back then models were already old when they were 25. And I remember saying that to people like, oh, my career is almost over because I'm old. So I think it was already then that there was a trigger in my mind of confusion. I was saying things like, oh, but I'm already getting old, or I'm already old. But in fact, I was 25. So it was the business that triggered it. And then I started working as a photographer a lot, full time, worldwide, and slowly aging. And my models always stayed in their 20s, and I was slowly turning 31, 32, 34. And I still hear myself saying, oh, I'm getting older, because I was so focused on youth and young people and young models and a certain kind of beauty standard that I lost myself along the way, because I didn't recognize myself in the models that I was portraying anymore. And not only on the outside, but also on the inside. So I started to miss something really fundamental, a click with my models, a click with the women I was working with. And it became a bit of an empty space inside of me. That lingered on, and it continued until I was about 38. And I started to get a burnout, get really tired. I worked in Japan and then flew from Japan to New York and was jet lagged a lot and was eating unhealthily, stuff like that, workaholic. And at one point I thought, I want to change my life. I never had this feeling of having a child because I have endometriosis. So it was almost an impossible task to get pregnant, but I did at 39. And that completely changed my life. I stopped my career as an international photographer. I did some jobs in Amsterdam. And when he was born, I just dropped my camera and I was like, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore. And during that process, I was searching information and inspiration on how I was going to fill my life after being a mother at 40, and also after 40 in general. Like, what am I going to wear? What are women in their 40s doing? Where are they in the media? And it took me 2 years to realize that they were not there. A little bit, of course, but it was such a tremendous, huge, enormous group of young women taking over the world, social media, media, television, everywhere. And the general 40 group, women 50, 60, they were invisible. And it really struck me, because altogether I had been working on creating content with models for so many years, being a model and being a photographer. And it already came to me while doing it. But when I turned 42, I was shocked by myself creating all that content and never even think of that group of women that were in their 40s and 50s and 60s not represented. So the first portrait I took was of my mom, and she was 69 back then. And I saw and see so many beautiful women around me in normal life. And of course, giving them the treatment of a model, because all the women that come to my studio get the treatment of a model, the treatment of professional photography. So they all come without makeup. They have a makeup artist doing makeup, the hair, the styling, everything is made. And look how beautiful they are. And that is what I wanted to do with
Amazing.
women.
Amazing. So you have managed to carve out this corner of the internet that is just such an inspirational place for women to land and to see themselves. And that is such a, like from my perspective as a 46-year-old woman, such a refreshing experience. And I'm so grateful for it. But in terms of changing the narrative and changing the paradigm that we've been facing in terms of seeing younger women in the media, what do you, I mean, you are still up against quite a lot, we all are, and I'm interested to know what, given that you've been doing this work for some time, what is it, is there something that still enrages you about what you see in the media in terms of what you're up against?
Well, I have to be honest, and that is that I have a one-way street. So I'm trying to focus on my own mission and not get annoyed or distracted by all the things I don't like. Because, of course, what I'm doing is I'm going against the rules, basically. I'm trying to show the world that women with wrinkles and an older appearance is still beautiful. And that is it's a rough fight, because if I have to compare my work to what you see in the media, then I'm by myself. So I try to really focus on what I'm doing and this large and continuously growing group of women behind me and next to me that are jumping in this train and driving with me to the right direction. And I'm very thankful that so many women are inspired by my work, because now 3 years later there is such a big group of women on Instagram that are also influencing, it's a really strange word, but they're influencing women to get out there and stop being invisible and proud of who they are. And that is what I focus on, and not so much on the media. But I have to say that things are changing. Of course, I see older women in campaigns and fashion campaigns and television campaigns. So there is absolutely a movement going on, and I'm not sure if it goes fast enough for me, but there's absolutely an awareness going on that women over 40 and 50 and 60 and 70 and 80 are still here, and they become less invisible and they need to be pushed. And you see what happens when you push them.
Yeah, it is reassuring that the change is happening. I feel, I mean, there's definitely a movement and it is happening. So it's incredibly reassuring from that perspective. I'm really interested to hear how your women come to you, your bloomers, as you call them. Like how do they come to you? Do they inquire to you, or do you find them? And I want to talk a bit about the vulnerability piece, because it's very vulnerable to be an aging woman and to not see yourself in the media enough, even though it is changing somewhat. We're still opening magazines and seeing younger versions of ourselves, and that feels vulnerable. And there's also a vulnerable piece in showing up as a midlife woman and being photographed in front of the lens. Like, that's incredibly vulnerable as well. So there's this huge vulnerability piece, and I'm interested to hear how you hold that for women, you know, like what, yeah, I'm interested to hear your story behind how you hold that for women that you're shooting, and also how you hold that for yourself.
That's a long question. Well, it started, as I said, with a portrait of my mother. And then I started to move towards friends and mothers of friends, and then the women that I saw on the streets. And slowly it grew. So then women were starting to write me and send me messages. Can I come too? I want to participate in the project. So it really is a movement. It moves and it grows. And nowadays I have a list of women that want to participate, and I always try, but it's not a very easy task. But I shoot every month, one day, every 6 weeks, and I try to fit in 5 women, because otherwise it wouldn't be. I wouldn't financially be able to do this project. So I have to fit 5 women in a day. And these 5 women, I always try to have one woman in her 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, or even older. And then I always try to have a Dutch woman, a native, other ethnic, skin color, dress size, gray hair, short hair. You know, it's really difficult to reach all these women. So it's a puzzle, and I really like to do this puzzle. And nowadays, of course, there is so many different women. They even want to fly to Amsterdam to be portrayed. So right now I was emailing with a woman that wants to fly in from Italy, and I have to fit her in. So that is an enormous task. And of course I have great help from women that volunteer in this project. And when they come to the studio, there's no rules. So they come, the only thing they have to do is come without makeup, which is vulnerable for a lot of women. But as soon as they walk in, it's like a warm bath. I work with amazing women. I have worked with an amazing makeup artist. Diane, of course, is an amazing stylist, and they are so kind, and they know and they understand this project so well. So they're comfortable. They arrive, they can be completely themselves. And of course, it's vulnerable to receive a different styling than you're used to wear, and also the makeup. Some women, they love the way they look after the makeup, and others are a little bit uncomfortable because they never have a lot of makeup, or it looks different than they normally would do. And but we have a lot of fun. We talk about life, we laugh, we dance. I always ask, what's your favorite music? And then the music goes up, and you know, it's just fun. And there's no, for me, there was from the beginning on, no rules. So you come, you give me what you want to give me from yourself, and then that's it. And that's the same with the interview. We always talk on set, but I never write anything down, because I much rather send the interview questions afterwards by email, so all women can take their time and think about what they really want to share. Because I'm not here to create sensation or something, you know. I don't. I want to tell stories that are real and personal, but I don't want to steal secrets and share them. If you know what I mean.
It sounds like such an incredibly empowering, fun, amazing experience for all of you involved. I've just got a picture of what it must be like, and yeah, it sounds like a really, really amazing.
Yeah, and before COVID, the studio was packed with women, and you know, they were taking their friends, and you know, it was just one big party. And then COVID came, and we had to really strictly have one lady at the time, and then one had to leave before the next one could come, and be very careful. I can't wait until COVID is gone again, and we can all be free in our sharing, because it's amazing if you put, and especially this age group, together, and it feels like friendship. And a lot of women, they get in contact through Bloom, and then become friends and have coffees, and then they send me pictures like, oh, look who I'm having coffee with, and that is just so great. I really love it.
So great. And I really love the fact that when women get involved, it gives other women permission to say yes to this as well. Yeah, it's a real domino effect that you've created, I think, which is just so incredibly special. I'm really interested to hear your experience having started your career as a fashion model, because I've been giving thought to women who have grown up like in the stereotypical experience of being beautiful, you know, and what that means to their aging journey. Do you think that women who have grown up stereotypically beautiful have a harder time with aging than perhaps women who don't?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I was speaking to a really wonderful, I call her a girl, but she was 32. So a young woman yesterday, and she was sharing her experience with me, saying, she was very beautiful, that she was worried about aging because the attention of men would become less. And we had a nice conversation about that. And it made me think, because I grew up as a pretty girl, and of course I had a lot of attention from men, but she asked my experience, and I've been different in that case. And I said that yesterday too, I think I was a born feminist. So the attention of man was cute, but I didn't really want any man. I wanted to be independent, have my own career, and never wanted to get married or have children, all those kind of things. And the attention of man that slowly disappears, also for me at this age, I'm 46 too, is somewhat strange at times, but it's also comforting at times, that you can feel much more yourself without feeling the eyes of other people on you with opinions, and feeling looked at all the time. I think that is really freeing. And what I also think is that it doesn't matter if you're a beautiful woman or if you're not a beautiful woman. I think acceptance of the life phase that you're in is very helpful. Because if you linger for your 30s when you're in your 40s, then it's a lost dream. And maybe for women that received a lot of attention from a man because they were beautiful when they were younger, it can be harder. But in my case, I'm like, it's freeing. And I accept the fact that my face is different. I'm moving into another phase, and I flirt with older men if I want to flirt.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm interested to hear also your experience of visibility, because I know you've spoken a lot about this. So I'd love for you to share a bit about, you hear women talk about becoming invisible as they get older. And, that is in response to the world that we face. It's not necessarily how we feel about ourselves, like if we remove ourselves from the old paradigm, we can age beautifully, as your work is such a divine example. But I'm interested for you to share a bit more about your experience of what it means to remain visible as we age.
Yeah, I think it's because I've been talking about it a lot and thinking about it a lot. And to begin with, I think it's partly it's nature. I think we go from being young women, fertile, looking for a man, wanting to have children, build a family and stuff like that. We go to another phase when we hit 40. We've done that. So it's like the haunting phase is over. So we settle a little bit down, we become more focused on ourselves and therefore more confident in many cases. Like I met a lot of women that tell me that they feel so much more confident when they are reaching their 40s. And then the other side is, of course, the media that is not showing us and not representing us. So a lot of women think that because they're not represented, they're not worthy of being seen or show themselves. And I think, and that is why I started my project, by showing them, other women get inspired and might think, and a lot of cases do think, I'm worthy because look over there, this woman is 50 or 60 and she's beautiful. I'm beautiful too. I'm going to show myself and dress up. And I get so many reactions and so many comments and so many messages from women that writes me like, oh, after 20 years, I am putting nail polish on again because you inspired me, or I'm going to wear a beautiful dress because you're wearing a beautiful dress. I'm going to do that too. And they've been wearing, well, non-fashionable things, because if you go to the shops and you see the campaigns of fashion brands, they don't show women over 50, 60 and up. How can you even compare yourself to a younger woman and she's dressed up in a fashion outfit that you cannot recognize yourself in? It's really it's unfair, and it's also very difficult for women to step over that and think, okay, it's a young model in that dress, how would it look on me? Can I still wear it? And they just think they can't, and they don't.
Body diversity is a really big issue as well. I read when you posted the photo of yourself in the swimsuit, you commented, which was just so gorgeous, you commented that you had someone contact you via direct message and ask why there aren't more women represented with more diverse body shapes. And your response was that it can be challenging to get women to step up to do this work at as their age, let alone women who don't have the ideal body type as well. So do you have any ideas about how to encourage more of that in your work and even in the media?
It's by showing women, sorry, it's by showing them. And when I started this project, I decided to be partly the face of the project, of course, because that it makes it more personal if people know that I am the one making the portraits and writing the stories. Sorry. Portraying myself in a bathing suit was never really one of my goals. So, and I am also not a plus size, but I really wanted to encourage women, also mainly by reading the text to get the point why I'm portraying myself in a bathing suit. But as a result, I received a lot of messages from women that are positive, and they want to participate. So now I have a list of women that want to be portrayed in a bathing suit. It doesn't even have to be lingerie, because it has nothing to do with the question, because that is a very difficult question. Is it still sexy? Because that is another story, another subject. This one is just about body positivity. And I'm very thankful. I already shot 2 women plus size last week, one in a bathing suit. The other one wanted to be portrayed not in a bathing suit, but just with normal clothes on. And I think by showing more, they will be more accepted and therefore more inspired. And hopefully the media will pick it up even more, because they are using models these days with different dress sizes, of course. But, I always say, like, one campaign over all the campaigns that are existing is not enough. One beautiful older lady is not enough. It should be 1,000.
Yeah, absolutely. It still feels, you do see it, but it still feels token. And it doesn't feel like, you know, like the movement's happening. But when I see it, I often look at those images and feel like, well, there's the token body diversity, and there's the token woman who's older, as opposed to having, as you say, it more of a widespread common experience that we open these magazines and regularly see examples of ourselves everywhere.
Exactly.
And the whole concept of, is it sexy? It's so interesting that that's what women initially respond to as well. Like, am I still sexually attractive, or am I sexually attractive at all? And what is sexual attraction? That's the other thing, to really challenge the ideas of what that is so important. And that's what my work is all about as well, is really challenging that and helping women to understand that, you know, what we have deemed as sexually attractive, or, you know, what we've deemed as like having a strong libido, and what that means in response to perhaps our male partners, if we're in a heterosexual relationship, is, you know, it's all old paradigm stuff, you know. And there are ways that we can, it's about remembering who we are as women, you know, aside from what we've been conditioned to believe. Yeah. So Dee, what do you think when you hear the words midlife pleasure and power?
Well, I was planning a live last Saturday, and the subject of that live was sex over 40, because I think it's a very important subject that needs to be opened up and normalized too. A lot of women are struggling with their sexuality when they hit menopause and when they pass menopause. And then again, you come back to that media that is not representing them. So they're not worthy, they're not beautiful, they're not sexy anymore. Look, I have endometriosis. So for me, the whole sexuality thing is a very challenging story. But overall, I think it's important to talk about it, also for me, but also for all women, to find out what's sexy and what sex and what sexuality means when you are not fertile anymore, because that is also what happens to all of us.
Yeah.
We lose our fertility, and then what's left of, and it's not only women, it's also men. I mean, I know lots of men that have low libidos when they are over 40.
And we've been conditioned to believe that being fertile is what is sexy, you know, and actually the beauty of reaching midlife is that when we do go through menopause, yes, we have changes to our libido and our lubrication patterns, and all that changes, but there is so much beyond that. And there are so many ways that we can work with it. And it's just, you know, there is just so much for us to learn about our bodies beyond the conditioning. Dee, I'd just like to wind up by asking you, what pearls of wisdom would you like to share with our audience for women who are aging and or reaching midlife? And also younger women as well, because I want younger women to be tuning into these conversations. That's my ideal scenario as well. And I'm sure you'd be listening, I'm sure you've got young women who tune into your work as well. I would love to see more of that as well, like more young women looking up to this stage of life. I think that's a real paradigm shift. But what pearls of wisdom do you have for the women that are listening?
Wow, such a difficult question.
Yeah.
They're also easy to say. So love yourself, embrace yourself, and aging is a normal process. So what I'd like to see is proud women that show the way like what was so difficult for me when I was in my 30s, if you're talking about a younger generation, is that I hardly had examples of women to show me the way. And I think it really helps for younger women if our generation, the ones that are mid 40s, and for us, the ones that are mid 50s and mid 60s, are standing up and showing that aging is a beautiful thing, and try to come out of the shades and shake off the invisibility and be proud of themselves. And I think that is, in my opinion, the only way to take away this terrible negativity around aging. Because if life stops at 40 for the media, and all the women around us are drawing back and become invisible, then that's when life stops for a lot of women. And it's really hard, because we also fight against Botox and fillers and that whole movement. And I don't think it will ever disappear, the Botox and the filler story. But I always try to say, embrace your age. And then if you want to do something about something that you're not happy about, you know, I don't have any opinion about it. Everyone is free to do whatever they want to do. But that embracing your age, come out of the shadows and be visible and show younger generations that it's really great to age and be happy about yourself. I think that is my best advice.
Beautiful.
And of course, be healthy and, you know, try to grow and learn, never stop. And maybe one of the best advices I ever got was get older friends, girlfriends.
Yeah,
like
that's great advice.
Girlfriends. They, you know, they show you the way. They are your muses and examples.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really potent advice. Dee, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a real joy talking to you, and yeah, we absolutely love your work. So the other thing I just wanted to quickly mention is your book that's coming out soon. Yeah, so quickly. Yeah.
It's a really nice story. Last year, in the midst of COVID, an English publisher called me, and she's like, "Oh, I'm in my 50s and I love your project, and can we do a book together?" So of course I said yes. It's a bloomer book, so it will be partly some of the bloomers that are already on the Instagram and a big group of new ones. And I'm sharing the portraits and the positive aging stories. So it's going to be a really wonderful photo book with inspiration. So if someone turns 40 around you, you can gift it.
Yeah, absolutely. Such an amazing gift.
Yeah, so it's coming out in September.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time today, Dee.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.